Have I been doing things wrong? Have I been learning art like an amateur? Honestly, maybe. But then again, I am an amateur, and I think that's something that I finally accept instead of running away from. For a long time, I've been questioning the way I approach art. Not just how I draw, but why I draw, and what I'm aiming for. And whether the way I've been learning is actually helping me get closer to the kind of work that I want to create. Or is it quietly pushing me farther away from it? So I decided to take a step back. Not quit, not give up, just reset. Let's start again. I'm making a webtoon. Originally, the project had a different name. It was called Melanin and Mayhem. And while I still like that title, I realized over time that the idea behind it didn't fully align with what I was actually interested in exploring creatively. Somewhere along the way, my focus shifted. Now I'm trying to commit to a more consistent theme, one that I naturally gravitate toward and genuinely enjoy, which is magic, a magical world filled with strange creatures, fantastical landscapes, and imagery that feels otherworldly and mysterious. Why did I change my mind from my original concept? Honestly, I don't fully know. Inspiration, I guess? Curiosity. Maybe the simple realization that if I'm going to spend an absurd amount of time making something, it should be something that I would actually want to read. Something that excites me. Something that pulls me in. Because here's the truth, creating a comic is hard. It takes an extraordinary amount of time to translate what exists in your head onto paper or onto a screen. And the effort required, it's not fixed. It's indefinite. There's no clear endpoint where you suddenly feel ready. So I do it. Passion. That's really the only honest answer that I have. I read comics. I love fantasy. I love stories that build entire worlds and invite you to get lost in them. Some of my favorite anime, shows, and movies are things like Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball, Jujutsu Kaisen, Wonder Man, Skin Breaker, and of course, you can never leave out One Piece. Well, I just said that, but yeah. I'm drawn to stories that take you out of the world you know and drop you into one full of wonder, danger, discovery, and mystery. Worlds where exploration matters, where power has rules, where growth feels earned. Whenever I experience stories like these, they stir something in me. A warm emotion. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's a feeling of being younger when imagination felt limitless. Or maybe it's something deeper. A reminder of why stories matter in the first place. That's the kind of feeling that I want to create. Will my work ever live up to the things that inspired me? Probably not. At least not right away. But that doesn't mean that it's not worth trying. And that brings me to the real question, the one that's been bothering me the most. How do you draw a comic that captures those emotions without it taking a million years? How do you write and illustrate a story that can release at least once a week without it being sloppy, inconsistent, or soulless? The answer, at least for me, is efficiency. Not rushing, not cutting corners, but finding ways to reduce unnecessary friction in my process while staying true to my artistic identity. I don't want to sacrifice who I am creatively just to meet a deadline. But I also don't want perfectionism to paralyze me. So, I need a method. The approach I've decided to experiment with is fairly specific. And honestly, it's probably something a lot of artists already do in some form. But this is my first time trying it deliberately, so I'm going to explain it the best I can. I'm stepping away from directly copying references, both for characters and for backgrounds. Let me be clear. I'm not saying references are bad, they're essential, but the way I've been using them has kept me dependent. I'd look at an image, draw exactly what I see, and move on, without truly understanding why it looks the way it does. So instead, I'm introducing what I'm calling observation sessions. These sessions are simple, but intentional. I'll spend around 30 minutes just observing. No drawing, no sketching, just looking. Studying gesture, studying light and shadow, studying shapes, proportions, and perspective. Not passively, but actively. Asking questions, trying to understand what I'm seeing rather than copying it line for line. Then, and only then, I'll attempt to draw from imagination. Not because I expect it to look good, it probably won't, but because recalling information forces understanding. It exposes gaps, it builds visual memory, and over time, it trains pattern recognition, which is essential if you want to draw faster and more confidently. My hope is that by learning this way, I'll eventually be able to choose poses instinctively, compose scenes more naturally, place characters into environments without them feeling like they were cut out and pasted in. I know this approach isn't easy. It requires repetition, consistency, patience, and a willingness to be bad, visibly bad, for a long time. I know this could take years to truly master. I've listened to masters talk about this process, artists who have been drawing since childhood, people who dedicated their entire lives to the craft. That kind of perspective can be intimidating, but intimidating doesn't mean impossible. This is a journey of self improvement, a long one, and I am choosing to walk it anyway. My goal isn't just to improve quietly in the background, I want to document the process. I want to show the awkward stages, the uneven progress, the chapters that are too short, the art that almost works, and the art that clearly doesn't. Because someone has to market my work, and that someone is going to be me. Now, you might notice that I've talked a lot about drawing, but almost nothing about writing. That's intentional. If I'm being honest, I'm considering taking a very unconventional approach to storytelling, inspired loosely by Hayao Miyazaki. Miyazaki is known for developing his films visually first, letting the story evolve through storyboards rather than locking in a rigid script from the beginning. It sounds chaotic, and it is, but it also gives his work a sense of spontaneity and emotional honesty that's hard to replicate. The creator doesn't even fully know what's coming next. That idea excites me. So, for this webtoon, I want to try something similar. I'll establish themes, characters, and emotional direction, but I won't over outline every plot beat. I'll let the visuals guide the story, let the discoveries happen naturally. Is this a recommended method for non-professional enthusiasts? Probably not. But it does sound fun. And enjoyment matters, especially when you're committing to something long term. If the process becomes miserable, the project dies. Simple as that. This webtoon, Arya the Witch, won't be my magnum opus. It's not meant to be. It's an experiment, a testing ground, a way to pull off as much creativity as possible without waiting for some imaginary perfect moment. The chapters will likely be short, maybe 3 panels per episode, maybe awkwardly paced at times, and that's alright. I don't have unlimited time, but instead of complaining about that, I'm choosing to work within my constraints. Consistency over perfection, progress over paralysis. It might be good, it might suck. Either way, it will exist. And I'll keep showing up. I'll keep explaining my process, and I'll keep improving publicly. This isn't fluff, it's a promise.